Hey YouTube, Son of Sanguinius here, and today we're going to be continuing our Blood Angels Tactics videos by going over the premier elite choice of the Blood Angels Codex, the Death Company. So, coming in at 100 points, Death Company Marines have Weapon Skill 4, Ballista Skill 4, Strength 4, Toughness 4, 1 Wound, Initiative 4, 2 attacks, Leadership 8 with a 3-up armor save. For War Gear, they have Power Armor, Bolt Pistol, Chainsword, Frag and Crack Grenades. Special rules, they have Fearless, Feel No Pain, Furious Charge, Rage, and Relentless. Options here, you may include up to 10 additional Death Company Marines for 20 points per model. Any Death Company Marine may replace his Bolt Pistol with a Bolt Gun for free. Any Death Company Marine may replace his Bolt Pistol and or Chainsword with a Power Weapon for 15 points, Power Fist for 25 points, or a Thunder Hammer for 30 points. Any Death Company Marine may replace his Bolt Pistol with one of the following: a Hand Flamer for 10 points, an Inferno Pistol or Plasma Pistol for 15 points. The entire squad may take jump packs for 3 points per model, and if they do not select jump packs, they may select a Drop Pod, Rhino, or Razorback as a dedicated transport. So, Death Company, absolute beasts in close combat. Arguably one of the best close combat units in the game, by far. They have a lot of options. They have a lot of special rules: Fearless, Furious Charge, Feel No Pain, Rage, and Relentless. These guys can do some work. Now, just there's a lot of discussion out there about how best to apply Death Company. Honestly, I can see, as far as squad sizes go, I can see using them in small squads or in large squads. If you're going to be taking them in small squads, the whole saying, divide and conquer, which a lot of people misinterpret, by the way. They're not talking about dividing your own forces, they're talking about dividing your enemy's forces. But regardless, I can see using them in small squads, for example, to place on the flanks of your opponent's army, and then you exploit gaps in their line, and you just sort of push in and just sort of maneuver your way in through their forces. Additionally, I can also see using them in large groups. For example, if you wanted to spearhead an assault, like they do in the Fluff. The Death Company are pretty good at that. So, depending on how you use them, I can see using them in small squads or in large squads. Typically, I tend to use them in smaller squads of 5, and then I just sort of, try and maneuver them as best as I can. I find that having little pockets of Death Company everywhere can sort of throw your opponent off, as they then have to decide, okay, well, which one of these units am I going to try and take out? Which ones do I leave? Which ones do I leave my poor troop choices or my elite choices to essentially be demolished? So the other thing to mention too is close combat weapons. We're talking everything under that category versus bolt guns. Now they are relentless, and you can, if you wanted to, give your Death Company jump packs and still have their bolt guns and just run up the table, rapid fire. Well, not run, but jump up the table, rapid fire, and then charge. That's certainly an option, and I could see in some situations if you were going against like perhaps some horde armies, that might be a viable option, but personally, I like keeping all my Death Company armed with close combat weapons, pistols of various forms, and then chainswords, power fists, thunder hammer, that sort of thing. Primarily because Death Company are really built for the assault, and I can see some merit in giving them bolt guns and having them rapid fire, and some people do play them that way, and that's perfectly valid. I don't really see the point in giving an assault unit close or giving an assault unit ranged weapons rather. For me, it's all about maximizing their effectiveness in the assault, and the best way to do that is to stick with their pistol and close combat weapon of choice. So as far as other things, jump packs versus transports, personally, I run them with jump packs. I find that, idea of the rapid advance of the Blood Angels line is kind of what drew me to the army in the first place from a thematic standpoint. That's sort of the red blitz, the blitz of blood across the table, just coming at your opponent, turn 1, and by turn 2 or turn 3, they're already on the back foot ideally. So I tend to run them with jump packs, but you could, of course, use transports. Obviously, if you wanted to do like sort of the bolter run, the bolter setup for them, I could see using them in drop pods, or perhaps, even though it's not a dedicated transport, using land raiders as sort of a good cover for your hard-hitting elite units. And considering how much points you'd have to invest to actually, get that sort of 10-man, bolt gun Death Company squad, that'd be at least 200 points, assuming you didn't upgrade them with anything else. So that's you could basically have a pseudo Death Star-ish thing. It may not kill everything, but it will certainly be a headache for your opponent, as there's a big-ass Land Raider that he can't kill, and then inside of that, there's a Death Company squad, 10-man Death Company squad that he also can't kill. Well, at least he can't kill it very easily, so you can definitely cause, your opponent some headaches as far as that is concerned. But for me, like I said, I tend to stick with jump packs. And then, as far as equipping Death Company goes, this is another thing that is debated amongst Blood Angels players. Some of them just like to keep them all bare bones and just stick with chainsaws and bolt pistols, and that's perfectly viable, even without any sort of additional power weapons or thunder hammers or power fists. They can still definitely do a lot of damage. I mean, you figure, okay, so they have Furious Charge, so when they hit in, they're 2 attacks base, +1 for having a chainsword and bolt pistol, +2 with Rage, so they're already at 5 attacks. And if we take a moment to look at Angel's Blade, with the Death Company Strike Force, as long as the Death Company Chaplain is within 12 inches of them, they get an additional attack. So that's 6 attacks per model, Strength 5, Initiative 5. Yeah, you're going to be tearing through some stuff. There's only so many armor saves your opponent is likely going to make. And you can definitely, like I said, give your opponent a real headache if you apply Death Company correctly. But generally speaking, I like to have 2 Marine, and this is for every 5-man, as I like to run 5-man squads normally. So 2 Death Company Marines that are going to be out front. I just like to keep them bare bones, so chainsword and bolt pistol. The third guy, I like to give a plasma pistol and just leave his chainsword in there. The next guy, I like to give a power sword in exchange for his chainsword, so he's going to have a bolt pistol and a power sword. And the last guy is going to give out his chainsword for a thunder hammer, and he's still going to keep his bolt pistol. Now, the reason why I like to do this is, when you really think about it, the 2 guys up in front are going to be the 2 normal guys. You're going to have the plasma guy behind that, the power sword behind him, and then the thunder hammer ideally in the back, right? So when the unit charges in, the 3 guys with chainswords hit first, so that would be the 2 normal guys up front and the guy with the plasma pistol. He still has, a chainsword or whatever. You figure that's 15 attacks or whatever, assuming we're not taking the Death Company strike force. So we're gonna assume 5 attacks per model on the charge. That's going to be a lot of saves your opponent's going to have to make. Then the power sword guy steps in, also initiative 5, and he's going to cut through. Then your opponent hits back, and then whatever is left, the guy with the thunder hammer steps in and he smashes them all to bits. Perhaps there's 1 or 2 models in your opponent's unit left. Perhaps you killed them all and you consolidate. Whatever. The battle is almost certain. That combat rather is almost certainly yours in that instance. And I also like having a little bit of semi-decent shooting in there as well. Bolt pistols aren't really going to do a whole lot, but the plasma pistol certainly will. And hey, if you're going to give a plasma pistol to anyone, it might as well be the guy with Feel No Pain, right? That way, in case you fail your armor save, you at least have a 5-up Feel No Pain to rely on. Additionally, when you consider that, if we're talking about throwing them against something like, Orc Boys or Termagants or most other troop choices, you're going to be wounding on a 3 with your chainsword. You're going to be hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s with Furious Charge, so strength 5. Again, chainswords will definitely do some work. The power sword comes in, knocks a couple more out, and then you're going to have 4 attacks with that thunder hammer, strength 8 AP2, and concussive. So even if there's only 1 or 2 models in your opponent's unit left, they're going to be knock down Initiative 1, assuming the Thunderhammer hits. So on your next turn of combat, all your 3 guys with chainswords and the 1 guy with the power sword is going to be hitting first. And between, 15 normal attacks and 5 attacks with the power sword, you're probably going to wipe out the rest of that unit. And that will most likely be during your opponent's turn, meaning they're going to consolidate during your opponent's turn, and then the next turn you can just sort of move up and charge again and repeat the process. So as far as that's how I like to kit them out, and as far as how to use them on the tabletop, I like to sort of go to the fluff as to how to use Death Company, and there's typically 2 main ways, right? You have sort of the large, advancing force of Death Company that, charges in and spearheads an assault and tries to, poke a gap through your enemy's lines. But they're also been used to exploit gaps in the flanks of your opponent's force, and then they just sort of move in from the right or from the left or from both, and then they just sort of, slowly envelop your enemy that way. Since I like to use them in smaller squads, I tend not to throw them in the front. I tend to put them on the flanks and then just sort of come around and envelop the opponent that way. But regardless, they're not supermen. They can still be killed, and the feel no pain goes away as soon as instant death kicks in. But Death Company are fairly resilient, and that feel no pain has been surprisingly useful. A lot of people think, hey, it's just a 5-up, but that 5-up definitely comes in handy when the wounds start, stacking up, and that your 3-up armor save just can't cut it. The feel no pain, gives you something to fall back on. Although it's only a 1 in 3 chance, but hey, better than nothing. So overall, Death Company are an awesome unit. I think probably do I want to say that they're the best unit in the Blood Angels Codex? Yeah, I think I would go that far. I think Death Company are probably the best unit in the Blood Angels Codex. As far as thematically, I love the fallen sons of the angel. Their minds are trapped, in the Horus Heresy. They believe they are Sanguinius, or they believe they're fighting alongside Sanguinius, that kind of deal. I think, thematically it's awesome. And on the tabletop, they are definitely awesome. So, overall, an awesome unit. Just try and keep the points reasonable, because if you overspend on them and they get taken out, that's, a huge point loss to your army. So, anyway, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.